the Sydney Roosters, for mine, I think they're going to win the comp. I'll say it to start this preview for the Roosters. I think they're the team to beat. I like everything they're doing at the moment. I like the gains. I like the Brandon Smith addition, and I also like the Jake Turpin addition to come off the bench and relieve Brandon Smith. I don't think Brandon Smith's an 80-minute hooker, but I think he's one of the best 60-minute hookers. So I think to let him have that little break will do wonders for the team. And I think Turpin having that smaller role could suit him quite well because I don't think there's any doubt he's a first grade player. And I think he got unfairly criticised at times by the Broncos and their fans. I think they sort of wanted a scapegoat, and he proved to be that at times for the Broncos. But I like the one big thing I look at for the Roosters is that back line, and that back line is scary good. It's one of those back lines where you don't want to let them on the front foot at all in the forwards because you know that they'll score points in the matter of a play or two. Where are you at with the Roosters, Luke?
I haven't made my grand final pick yet, but I'm leaning towards the Roosters. A lot of what you said. I also think a big thing for the Roosters, I would like them to be. We talked about the Rabbitohs, but I think the Rabbitohs are kind of a outline in terms of where you can finish on the ladder. Even the Roosters last year, they finished sixth, and a lot of people still had them as grand final contenders. But I do think we all know there hasn't been a premiership winner. I can't remember the last time if there was or whatever. Especially in this new system, there hasn't been a team that's won the comp that hasn't finished inside the four. It is really important that they finish inside the top four. So they've got the side definitely get there, but will they finish in the top four? And why I'm really confident they will is I think they built a lot of those. They've gotten over a lot of those growing pains. They now know how that half combination works with Walker 7, Carey 6. They also I think is a really important part. They don't get that butchered, pulled apart during Origin.
Yeah.
They've got Teddy, but you look at the two halves, Sam Walker and Carey. Yeah, they're kind of on the cusp of Origin, but they're not playing.
Mm.
And then Brandon Smith is a Kiwi. You've also got Joseph Manu, who's a Kiwi. And then you think about that. Who's covering the best fullback in the world? Arguably the next best fullback in the world, Joseph Manu. Not saying he is, team. Don't freak out. But the only ones that are really missing, Daniel Tupou hasn't been in the mix, is Angus Crichton and James Tedesco. Might be missing a name there, but you get the gist of it. And obviously Victor Radley is now not affected. He is big, though. His health is very important. Like he's the reason I think it was a year that Flanagan was the halfback, and they were going. It was the year after 2019. They were going awesome, and then he got injured. Luckily now they've got Brandon Smith to help out that mobility in the middle. But I'm really liking the Roosters. I think there's a lot of things that were negative about them last year that have been sorted, and I actually think they're going to hit the ground running a bit quicker than people think too. So yeah, echo everything you say, and I think Joseph Manu just knows his role now. Like yes, he can go to be one of the best players in the comp, but he is content. He doesn't have an ego. He just does his job. Yeah, like you can probably hear me talking myself into picking them. I don't want to be as boring as I don't want to be, I shouldn't say boring and pick the same as you, but it's definitely where I'm trending at this stage.
Yeah, I think as well with the Roosters, and I think you can already see that just in last week's performance in the trial, is that I think Robson has outlined the fact that they are slow starters, and I think he wants to kick that out of him. So that way, I reckon in the last probably 2 seasons, what's let him down the most is that they've given teams too much of a head start. And I'm talking about the Panthers and probably the Storm, last year, the Cowboys, the Sharks, the Eels. They've given those teams who have started a lot better than them probably 2 to 3 win head start. And throughout the year, where some injuries can come and you can lose one or two, you don't want to be doing that. So I think Robinson has actually outlined that, especially early on now this year. And that's why they've named such a strong side last week. This week, obviously, most teams have done the same thing anyway. But to play that such a strong lineup last week, a lot of people were thinking, what's going on here? But if there's one coach in the game that knows what to do, especially with a group of players, it's Robinson at the Roosters. And I reckon it was a great thing to do. I think the more that team can gel early on and hit the ground running, the scarier it is for the comp, because first game for them is, I'm pretty sure, the Dolphins. So they could get away to a screamer, but you never know what will happen with the Dolphins. But you mentioned one name that I want to quickly focus on, and that's Luke Keary. We've seen, unfortunately, his injury concerns over the last probably 2 years, especially with the HIA. I believe he's missing this week's game because of a similar knock that happened during training. So there's starting to be a little bit of whispers coming around. There's some rumours going around about his future and what the Roosters do, because I think he's taking in a bit of a chunk of the cap at the moment, but they've also got some young players coming through, and I think we'll see sort of where they're at in terms of what their play is next when it comes to Luke Keary. What would you do with the Luke Keary situation, because I think, as you said, the halves have started to work, but it just becomes once again this year where the halves keep going in and out because of these injuries, which he obviously can't help, but it impacts the team. And you don't want that unreliability to happen, especially when there's a year where a lot of pundits out there and pros and things like that and commentators are saying you're going to have a successful year.
It's a tough one. I do just think you just don't do anything. I mean, it's one of those things where I think you just got to play them, and you just got to back yourself to be good early, and then have that potential to, if they are like I believe, get some winners at about, get themselves in the comfortable position, and think, all right, is this the time now? Look, maybe we're going to cost ourselves a spot, but we've got a final spot in the top four. Do we consider how we conserve these players? It's also interesting if you carry players on the bench that can cover as well, just to say they're blown out a team. So all those things, you can put bubble wrap around them, but at the end of the day, Luke Keary, when he was healthy, I had him as a top 10 player of the game. He's one of those players that really needs to take on the line. We say that about all the best halves. Probably the only halves we don't really say that about is like the Cooper Cronks of the world, where he can game manage and step back in that pocket. But those ones that take on the line, the Kieran Thorns of the world, his partner, Sam Walker. Yeah. And obviously, and they got injury concerns, obviously, and that's what's going to happen. I just think you've just got to play them and just see if you can build up potential strategies within the way you rotate your bench, and also just looking at that back end of the season. Yeah, it's a really tough one, but I think if you over plan, then that's also like, it's like when, if you think you're going to get injured, you're more likely to get injured. It's all that side because you just go into contact. So I think it's a lot that comes down to how Luke Keary is mentally.
The scary thing, I think, just on the last bit here with the Roosters, and that, let's say if Keary or say Teddy do go down at some point this year and they're out for any amount of time, the scary thing for any opposition out there is that they've got probably the best replacement out there in Manu, who can fill in at fullback. And he's probably, for mine, I think there's been talk about he's trained at 5'8" as well, and that was part of his new deal with the Roosters, to get in closer to the ruck when there's a chance. And I think we've just seen he's gone from strength to strength. And for mine, I think you already said it, I'd put him in probably the top 5 players in the game currently, just with how good he has been, especially that in the World Cup. He was so good for New Zealand, and I think that's a huge danger, because at the moment, I think Keary has sort of not ever come back with 100% confidence, which you can't blame him for. Where if Manu replaces him and goes into that spot, Walker's already getting to that stage now where I reckon he's challenging for that Maroons number 7 spot, and he's got all the confidence in the world. And then you add Manu, a runner, and he can also ball play at 5'8". I think that's some really dangerous signs there for the Roosters, and one of the reasons why I personally think they'll go all the way this year.
Sorry to cut you off, Joel. I just thought, if there's a potential that Luke Keary or Walker gets injured early and Manu is given the opportunity to go in the 6, and let's say it goes fantastic, I think they've got to make the decision to just say, all right, whoever's injured, that might be you for the year. because we can trust Manu more to stay be durable. I know how it's tough. But yeah, this is all what ifs, but it just made me think about that.